right, hello viewers. This is a test stream. We're going to be just discussing just some random topics. We're going to be just spitballing. I'm here with a guest, Josh. This is my good friend Josh.
Oh yeah, yeah. What's up? Yeah.
All right.
I'll try not to be crippled with self-consciousness. You know?
Well, we can't see ourselves, so
That's true.
that'll help. But yes. So I'm here with my buddy Josh today, and we're actually thinking of starting off with some scary content. Ooh, super scary.
Yeah, it's good. I like horror. Right? I mean, yeah. Right? Real life is the actual horror movie, right?
Oh yeah, like
In general, right?
like that's how we get all these scary ideas for movies, because it's like
Yeah.
often paralleled to real life.
Yeah, right. The emotional experience, you know.
Absolutely. So, my buddy here has a story that he was going to bring up a few minutes ago, but I was like, oh no, wait, let's.
Oh, that. Yeah, that's unrelated to like any kind of like news or anything like that. But no, this was just a story about why you want to be careful taking psychedelics for the first time, because you know it's definitely popular in today's day and age, right? Everybody and their dog seems to be microdosing, right? Because of all the benefits, right? You know.
Oh yeah,
Like
and the dog, yeah.
Yeah, right. Alleviating anxiety and enhancing creativity and all these other superpowers, right? That are apparently available.
Oh
right?
yeah.
You know. But anyways, a friend of mine, his good buddy wanted to take magic mushrooms. Right. He's just been bored in life, and he's been hearing all this buzz, and he's like, you know, maybe this is what I need to like, you know, gain insight, or like this is gonna revitalize me, right? But anyways, this friend of mine, he asked me for a website, like, you know, to order them off of, and I gave him the website. So I feel like almost partly responsible in like the most like, you know, disconnected sense to what happened here. But anyways, this guy ended up buying a whole bunch of mushrooms, and despite all the advice I gave my friend to pass on to this guy, and like, you know, the emphasis upon like having a sitter with him, this guy was kind of arrogant, and he decided to take him on his own at home, a high dose, having never experienced this before, right? And he took like probably over 5 grams, and at some point he decided to get up off the couch while he was tripping, and he ended up falling, hitting his head, damaging his occipital bone by his eye, and he stared into the mirror for 2 hours trying to like convince himself that he was okay while blood was pouring out of his eye.
Oh no.
Right? Yeah. You know the terror that you can be experienced when you're like tripping, right? And so he ended up going to the hospital, and he's okay, minor damage, but apparently the guy's just like totally shaken from this, you know. So it's like, you know, don't fuck around. Have a trip sitter. You know, there's all kinds of like wonderful, sublime experiences you can have taking psychedelics, but you know, stick to the best practices. Don't fuck around, because that's the kind of shit that can happen.
Oh yeah, set
Right.
and setting is so important. Yeah, especially being around others that have like either have done it, or two, that there's like the concept of like ego death, and people that are capable of experiencing that, being able to let go like of their preconceived notions of control.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, like, already on the surface, I know this sounds very hippy dippy, but it's like when you take psychedelics, especially for the first time, you realize how very little and how like just insignificant we are.
Yeah, well, I feel like it almost puts you into this like state that's like, it's like being like an infant, like you're so vulnerable.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like higher doses. Right. Mm-hmm. Like the past few times that I've taken them, I've stuck to like 1 to 2 grams, just because like I'm not that keen on going that deep anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Especially as you get older, it's like you want to actually like be able to enjoy what you're going through, and not necessarily like have your entire brain re-networked.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's 100% what it is. Yeah, right? Like, I don't need to be one with everything again, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It's, you know, right?
Like I almost feel like, and maybe I'm like saying this incorrectly because I'm not like a computer programmer or anything, but like, you know, when you go to like defrag your hard drive,
Yeah.
I almost feel like it can be analogous to that sort of experience when you like have a higher dose trip. It can be like taking unnecessary data, or like you reallocate it more optimally. So like, I know that when I went to do acid for the first time with my one buddy,
Yep.
years and years ago, I felt like I was actually able to just like handle my stress so much easier. Because you know how like they have the very cliches like saying like don't sweat the small stuff,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all small stuff.
Yep.
So like it kind of put that into perspective again, where it was like I don't have to pay so much mind to all this. Like I can sort of like free myself of all these sort of inclinations and
It's funny. You know,
yeah,
I don't know. I swear I had like a similar experience the last time I took acid too. I swear. I
Yeah.
swear to God. I was just walking around thinking like, man, it's like, you know what? Like I think so hard, and so like I overthink so many things in life. Where it's like life is like fucking simple, right? And it's like you're just bringing all this extra shit to it, you know?
yeah.
Right?
Which yeah, I think that's like where a lot of people can benefit from psychedelics is like having like healthy doses of ego death,
Yeah.
and like it's not as if it's like a bad thing to like have a sense of care in the world where you try to make a difference, but like when you approach it with such an arrogant like sense of like just absolution, which like can be heavily ascribed to political idealisms, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that we're just not able to avoid these days.
Like you have the answers, like capital T, capital A, the answers,
the answers, the truth, the science.
Well, that's another thing too, though, because people can also get that a little bit when they take like psychedelics for like, just like kind of common insights. Will have they'll have the character of like some kind of revealed truth almost, right? Like, you know. Mm-hmm. So I guess it depends on what kind of insights the person has.
Yeah, like
Hopefully the coherent ones.
and
You
yeah,
know?
especially with like one's disposition too, because like if you're already like very prone to antisocial tendencies,
Yep.
you can have like a Charles Manson on your hands, and it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
strips away even more inhibitions. And if you're already like prone to impulsivity,
Yep. Oh yeah.
it's a deadly cocktail.
No, I mean, there's definitely therapeutic potential too. It's a very like mixed bag, right? Like they're just not like, because I feel like some people like kind of like proselytize for them like it's religion that they found, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's like, you know, this is gonna be the magic cure to everything wrong in your life, right?
Yeah.
And just it's, you know, there's a lot of positive potential there, but there's also, you know, it's like it needs to be done carefully, right?
Yeah, and if you're not, it can like approach like Gnosticism, where you feel like you have this like
Yeah.
divine truth that nobody else knows, and like you have to like in Gnosticism, it always like comes from an angle too, where like it's never self-contained.
Yeah, could you walk through exactly like what Gnosticism is?
So like
just kind of like a simple working definition, because like
yeah,
I think I vaguely understand the concept.
so like
I get the gist of it.
Gnosticism is like basically like you have like access to like a special kind of knowledge
Yeah.
that like it's not something that everybody can just like happen upon, and like it's definitely in the underpinnings of things like Marxism,
Yeah.
and like the things is that like so in order to like sort of find that sort of truism, you have to like look back into the past. So like when it comes to like because like the intellectual origins of Marxism are like it's actually written in like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and sort of the evolution of that sort of like translated from like Rousseau into like Hegel, and
Yep.
it kind of like transformed like because it was like from the romantic era, right? And they're trying to draw attention to like sentimentality is like actually greater than truth, which like is a very strange proposition when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, it just enables.
Well,
Yeah. Like just.
well, yeah, and like when you think of it to these days, like you have these notions of like just as a precursor for people who are listening, like I am not at all for like discrimination for racial
Yep.
like yeah like I'm very much like an equal opportunity like individual, like if you have the
Yeah.
qualifications, like I think that meritocracy is certainly the better way of going about it. It doesn't always pan out like in every scenario because there's just so many people to account for, and people have their names lost, and the pile
Yep.
of resumes, but like it's the closest that we can get to a fair system, because like if you try to implement these purposely discriminatory systems as like panned out by someone like Ibram Kendi, who is an anti-racist, where he actually like says like pretty much directly that like in order to save
Yeah.
like future discriminations, you have to implement present discrimination, which is just logically incoherent.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
It was defining people by their ethnicity first and
Yeah,
foremost, right?
yeah, which is like such a step back in progress. Like that's like basically spitting on the grave of Martin Luther King,
Yeah.
everything he ever like accomplished. Like
Yeah, for sure, right? Or it's kind of it's like a surface level kind of analysis of the problem.
yeah, and it's way too elementary too, like in dealing with like these issues that we face. Like I think that's why people like Kendi are potentially dangerous ideologues, because they just like they take like a very complex issue, they claim to understand the complexity, and then they have this like they commit the woke projection
Yeah,
sort of idea, where it's like, well, like we see it already committed to the world, but because we know like this is where the Gnosticism comes in, we behold a special sort of knowledge that we're on the right side of history. So if we implement discrimination, it is right.
yeah, yeah.
Like that is oof, that is not good.
Yeah. I'm not overly familiar with his arguments. You
Yeah.
know,
You don't
I've
even
heard
really need to be that
bits and
much.
pieces here and there.
Yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
like that's like sort of the base of like his book, like how to be an anti-racist.
Yeah.
Is like yeah, like we have to like purposely implement discrimination,
Yeah.
and but like it's at the basis of race.
And like, what is the methodology for this like discrimination? Like, is it like you talking about like
Well-
diversity quotas or like what do you mean?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. It's like, it's a quality of outcome based. So like we have
Yeah.
to fill the quota, where it's like we have to have specific numbers of like people who are like Asian, black, like basically all colors under the spectrum, that we have to have equal number, not actually taking into account like what their qualifications are.
Yeah.
And like I mean everyone's beholden to their opinion and they can have their own mix of things, but like when you have somebody like say Kamala Harris, who literally has like the monopoly of diversity, she's a black woman,
Yeah.
like she like, and she's just so incoherent so much of the time. You like listen to like her speech with like the I can't remember the passage of time one.
I haven't.
She's so repetitive on herself. It's so maddening to listen to, because it doesn't get like any real message across. It really is like a personification of the death of meaning.
Yeah.
Playing out in real time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I wonder. Yeah, I wonder. Like, so yeah. Diversity in sense, like these quotas entail kind of basically just like filling positions according to like a set amount of like X, Y, and Z ethnicities. Like you need 4 of this ethnicity, you need 4 of this ethnicity, you need 4 of this ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
And then, by gender as well, whatever, right?
Well, yeah.
Whereas-
And like, I think Jordan Peterson, he really points out like the problem of this analysis too, because like, where do you end where the diversity is? Like, because like you can like ascribe it to height, you can ascribe it to like foot size, you can
It's true.
like literally like you can like keep going on. And I know that sounds absurd, but like people are actually taking it to that extreme, because like they want a piece of the victimization pie.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like they want a
100%.
slice of this.
Yeah,
and,
it's like short people, tall people,
yeah, and like
right?
people can like rationalize these like seemingly crazy positions.
Someone needs to stand up for the bald, you know? I have some friends who are oppressed by their lack of a hairline, you know?
Well,
Right.
there's some hair oils and like castor oil and all these things.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? I want more bald people filling important roles in society. You know? But I mean, I don't know. With like politicians and stuff, I wonder how many of them are actually fervently believers in these ideologies, and how many of them are just pandering to what they perceive as popular, just from like culture. You know, because I feel like it's just a popularity contest, right? People are just gonna, you know, I don't know how much, I don't know how many principles these people actually have
No, like I don't think that they have like
across the
honestly.
spectrum, like left and right, like you know.
Honestly, I don't think that any of them really like just as like a like explicit mention. Like I'm more like within like the sort of classical libertarian conservative camp. Like
Yeah.
very much like came from a very like leftist like viewpoint up until about 5 years ago, and then
Yeah.
slowly started teetering away from that. And like I think that both like sides of the political aisle are definitely very guilty of like yeah they just see these sort of like ESG sort of mentions where like
Yeah.
they just follow these programs because they don't want to be hit by the proverbial bus,
Yeah.
you know, like because it's like it's a forward moving thing, and like it's basically like hop on the bus or you're just gonna get ran over.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really like it's really sad that like it's definitely stripped away a lot of the critical thinking behind it, like
Yeah.
actual critical thinking, not like critical consciousness.
Like, you know, it's like because it's all like very like emotionally like salient subjects for people, right? Where like, you know, it's I don't know. It's just very. People seem. I think there's a tendency for people to misconstrue skepticism for like you know, racism or homophobia, right?
Or transphobia or any phobia under the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just like it's really like a call for ad hominem.
Yeah.
That's what it is at the end of the day. Like somebody could have like a, you know, oh, like wait, let's hold on, like let's take inventory of what's going on here, and then they'll take like your I guess like resistance to join the movement as a form of like, oh, like you're just trying to enforce the status quo, which is like not meaning to like burst your bubble, man, but the status quo hasn't been like
Yep.
this idea that like the left has been trying to prop up for quite some time.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
considerably far left for a while, at
Yeah.
least like in terms of like dominant media.
Or say yeah,
and
the
everything.
vocal like the vocal folk.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, they're
I
very.
mean, there's not
very
many people
loud.
who are critical, or prominent who are critical of kind of modern leftist trends. I guess there's like Bill Maher, you know, right?
Yeah, which like it's funny too, because like I mean, like especially from people on the other side of the aisle, like they considered him like pretty far left for a while.
Now he's referred to as a conservative and stuff, right? Like, sorry.
No, like totally, like now, like because like if you're classically libertarian now, you're considered a conservative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I respect classical libertarianism. Like, I totally get the philosophy, and I think it's got a lot to be said for it. I don't know. I don't know where I fall on the spectrum. I'm probably like maybe like slightly left in some aspects. Just in that, like, I like the idea of there being like public options for like necessities like healthcare.
Oh,
and,
definitely agree with healthcare.
Right,
Yeah.
education being accessible, right? You know, just because you're just gonna have a better society, I think, right?
And I totally agree with that notion too. Like, I think something like education, like in terms of like with funding, like government spending, now the where I have take issue with it is like
Yep.
when the government program is like these. I mean, like this is a whole other animal to jump into, but the program of social emotional learning that's being
Yeah, I still need to
widespread.
educate myself on that subject.
Yeah,
Because it sounds like on the surface like it's like just like a kind of standard psychological theory, but you're saying it's more than that, right?
oh, it's way more than that. I mean, like, just for context, as like a sort of synopsis of this. So, like, social emotional learning is a program that is supposed to be universalized across North America.
Yeah.
So, like, with social emotional learning, it's supposed to be conducted in a therapeutic setting for one by like professional psychologists, but it's actually being implemented by like people who aren't even properly equipped to be like addressing it. And it's all if you're actually to go onto the Castle website, that's CASEL.
Yep.
They're the main orchestrators of implementing this program. It's all sales pitch. It's all like, oh, we're trying to like help children be better regulated emotionally, build more like responsible relationships to the environment and like to one another, and basically all these like sustainable, like the
So,
whole message is sustainable.
because being better regulated is always a worthy goal for people.
Well, yeah, and like who would contend with that? But when
Yeah.
you actually look
Yeah.
at like the academic material that they release, it's based off of. By the way, a lot of my information comes from the new discourses with James Lindsay. Very well-read man. He
Well,
is.
definitely he dives deep
Oh, he dives so deep, and like he also is open source. Like you can check all these things for yourself.
and follow the reasoning, kind of, right? Like,
Oh yeah, and he definitely has a very deep analysis of it, and he has a very unique angle of it too, because like he comes from a mathematics background, so
Yep.
like logic is very strong with
Yep.
him, like especially at the form of mathematical proofs he needs to like come up with. Like it's yeah, he definitely does his homework and he knows where to look.
Yep.
Like I don't even know where he finds half this shit, but then when he brings it to light, and you can like I said before, it's open source. Like you can look at these things yourself. He like actually reads verbatim from these people, so
Yep.
like
Yep.
you can easily fact check him, and
Yeah.
like through his interpretation, it's out of like their mouth, like so he has a reaction piece to what he's reading, and like he has a very in-depth podcast that's titled "The Dark Truth of SEL,"
Yeah.
and that is a very eye-opening podcast. I mean, like he basically goes into detail about how like SEL is basically a giant data mining operation to create quote forecastable consumers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're basically trying to like create an economic, like sociological environment where they create the conditions for their own like buying power in terms of like, because like the World Economic Forum backs SEL. Like they basically prop it up as like this should be like a worldwide use education program.
Create the conditions for their own buying power.
Yeah, actually, like it's that deep, and it's actually so scary because the level of technology that they're looking to implement, they're looking to have like wearable technologies that monitors like your heart rate,
Yep.
and if like you're in a like anxious state, you have this like AI based program that like helps calm you down and like exposes you to material that's supposed to like help calm you down, but if that's tailored to
Yep.
like your temperament and all these things, and like things that like you can purchase, they like it's very nefarious. Like,
Yeah, no, I kind of want to learn more about this because
yeah,
it's a very non-threatening term, social emotional learning.
and that's
Yeah,
the sales
right.
pitch.
It sounds like it's like like this is like the sound of a phrase like that is like you would think it was something about gaining self-knowledge or developing some kind of reflective tools for yourself, right?
Well, then, and that's the scary part. And like, the funny thing is that like a lot of these, because you can definitely, you can follow the trail yourself with like the World Economic Forum. They're like very globalist, communist oriented.
Yeah.
Like if you look at their tenets, they're very much geared
I
towards
saw that one commercial and I thought it was a joke initially about what is it? You will own nothing
and you will be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a friend of mine showed me that. Like like I've just started kind of learning about who these guys are or whatever, right? And I literally thought it was like a gag. Like I'm not like I actually thought it was a gag.
Yeah.
Like, and
Well,
I was like, this is kind of funny.
the
And I'm
guy's a real life Bond villain.
like,
Like,
yeah.
for real. Like
Or
the
he's-
only thing he's missing is a
or he's-
lap cat.
He's not especially conscious of style, It doesn't seem.
Well, no, and
You know?
like it's scary too because like yeah, like I don't think he feels like he needs to be in the slightest because like he just has all this like allocated power, and it's funny because like the whole so like critical constructivism is like an unholy marriage of like like quote like vulgar Marxism
Such
with
pretty language.
yeah
Critical
with like
constructivism.
yeah that and like postmodernism.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that they actually were warning against was like the allocation of power and how it could be like brought forth through like consensus, and they called it like what was it tyranny of parology, I think it was called. So like basically like you know how
Yeah.
like you have these like polls that are taken in Canada like during COVID that they're
Yep.
like, oh, polls indicate that like so and so percent like endorse like the mask mandates and all that. Well,
Yep.
those
Yep.
were skewed statistics first and foremost. And
Oh
like
yeah, people and their agendas, right?
oh yeah, and like
We're
they
just pushing
can
for something.
well they can be very selective of like the sample that they choose for that too, because that wasn't even like a nationally accessed like poll. Like so
Yep.
many people didn't even know that was even going on.
Yeah, the mandates were interesting to look back on, right?
Oh yeah, and like
So hard to believe that happened, actually.
oh yeah, and like I don't actually know if this is gonna happen. Disclaimer:
Yeah.
I'm not like claiming to be a Gnostic myself.
No, for sure. No, well, yeah, I'd say you and me are both kind of just skeptics first and foremost, right?
Yeah,
Or in
and,
a lot of ways. I mean, that's how I tend to think myself, anyways.
yeah,
Right.
and I I definitely have reason to believe that they're gonna try and re-implement these lockdowns, especially in light of like I mean I, this is like a source that I got from Epoch TV, and like every source has its own form of bias, but I have absolutely no reason to believe against like the fact that like I think it was at the end of December, like there's over like 250 million cases of like confirmed COVID from China,
Yeah.
and they're variant based, and then like that those were just like numbers that China was like willing to release, and now they're actually speculating it's closer to 900 million people were affected by
Yeah,
it.
the glory of a communist government.
And
That's
guess
right.
what they just decided to do? They decided to open borders, and now they're just like, okay, now like fucking go infect everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's what it seems like to me. Like like
Yep.
for disclaimer, Chinese people, I'm sure they're great and wonderful people. Very like well, I would say that they used to be culturally
Oh, you're talking about the government, though. You're not talking about
oh,
the
the
people.
government,
Right?
big time. Yeah,
Yeah.
the CCP is a
Well,
scary
when people
force.
refer to China, they're usually talking about the government. Like, you know, they're not talking about politicians. They're not talking about like actual,
Yeah,
you know,
but definitely need to
citizens.
make that clear though,
Right.
because like yeah, like they have a very rich like culture, which
Yeah.
it's so tragic. Like how like so many of today's youth don't even know about like the Great Leap Forward,
Yeah.
the Cultural Revolution,
Yeah.
things like that.
Well, I need to learn more on that too. And people, but yeah, in general, people are not synonymous with their governments, right? Like, you know, the sad thing is even if those people wanted to change their governments, it's gonna be very difficult for them, right?
Oh yeah, and we're definitely a prime example of that here too in Canada. Like I don't think that
The
like
mass popularity of Trudeau.
oh
Right?
god yeah
I mean, more people.
yeah.
It's very hard for me to find people who seem to like the guy, you know, and that's across the political spectrum, like left, right, you know, center.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy to find a pop. You know. I mean, I guess people. Maybe people just aren't vocal about it. You know. I mean,
That or like
well, it's two minority governments in a row, right?
yeah
It's not a sweeping win,
no, it's
right?
all like coalition based by the
Yeah.
looks of it. Like,
Right.
there's definitely like deeper nuances to it that I'm far from like being able to understand. But from what I've been reading, like the liberal government wouldn't have its power the way it does without a coalition.
Yeah, and them and the NDP, right?
Yeah.
Buddy, buddy now, right?
Well, yeah, and like, I haven't actually updated myself on this yet, but I mean, it doesn't really look like the liberal government has made good on its promise of like basically funneling more resources into the medical sector, which is like the base of their condition for having a coalition. So like,
Yep.
if they don't make good on that, I mean, like, I think it's also in like Jagmeet Singh's best interest too to keep the relationship going, even if they don't make good on their like their deal. I mean, like it grants them power too. So it's like making almost it seems like an empty threat where it's like, well, if you don't make good on this, then we'll pull out. It's more like we're just gonna put that out there and hope that you you fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a
who
tale as
knows?
old as time, right? Just desperate promises made to the populace, right?
Yeah,
I feel like the end goal is just to hold on to power for most, right?
yeah, that and yeah, and that's where like definitely have taken great value of like I think it was actually you that highlighted me to Robert Greene.
Oh yeah, I love Robert Greene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a very good read, and I think he's seriously misinterpreted by like way too many people.
Seems like a really nice guy too when you watch him in interviews.
Oh my god, he is actually like so like he's like almost like gentle, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, right. I think people expect him to be this like nefarious,
I don't I like
Machiavellian.
I totally like admit that I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it was interesting listening to his story too because like he wrote these the 48 Laws of Power is basically his own kind of self-defense manual against exploitation, right? While working as a screenwriter in Hollywood,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, in LA, that's a super cutthroat area.
Just being used and abused by various bosses, right?
Lots of those types in that area.
So I find that interesting, right? They're good tools to know, all right?
What's hilarious too, because like Hollywood or like just like the LA area is like a mecca for narcissists.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, of course, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like if you're histrionic, right?
Oh God, yeah.
You're not gonna
Oh.
go do quiet work, right?
Oh, definitely not. You'll head to either coast,
yeah, right.
New York or probably more likely California.
You gotta bask in the attention of the world, I guess, right?
If yeah,
You know,
influencer status or what
such a
have you.
sickening quality people have.
Oh yeah, like that's definitely the degree to which like individualism can be a sickness. You
Yeah.
know, like but I definitely like I'm very much geared towards that myself. I mean, like I'm going into the clinical counseling arena and like at the like at at the level of analysis with group, like you can't hope to really do much as like a counselor unless like you're gonna be like a guru or like
Yeah.
some weird cult leader. So I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
start that up.
Yeah, individualism, right? Individualism versus collectivism. That's a fun kind of thing to explore too, isn't it?
Yeah, which like there's certainly I can recognize like there is merit to like collectivism, but like I think I take it more on the like the microcosm level with your family.
Yeah.
I think that's much more tenable. And if you're able to like have a cohesive enough society where people at least have like a source of agreement on, then you can actually like somewhat try to approach collectivism in a meaningful way. But the way that like these tyrannical governments have just like completely foisted that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the number one regrets of like the dying, right? They've done studies where they've interviewed people near death or people in later life. I think one of the number one regrets is that they didn't live a life that was their own, right? They were too focused on like the kind of shoulds of their life, right? They weren't really who they actually were.
Yeah,
Right?
which is so tragic.
I mean,
so,
it's possible to live an authentic life in that way and still be connected to others, right? Like
I would hope so.
individualism doesn't have to imply separation. Like it doesn't have to be like the Ayn Randian kind of caricature, right?
No, I totally agree with that. What you're saying,
Right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, right? Like how many of our most selfish pleasures have to do with other people? Like like, right? It's like just like doing things for people that you care about and like seeing them, seeing their joy. Right?
Yeah, and there's definitely like a very good evolutionary basis for that too. Like that's how we came to thrive. Like and it's sort of if you take the perspective of like Richard Dawkins,
Yeah.
you know, where it's just like that's another figure that people seriously like misrepresent too. Where like I haven't read it in its entirety yet.
I haven't
the
spent much time
Self-Esteem.
with Dawkins, honestly.
Oh, you would
I liked
love
Hitchens
him.
and Harris a lot.
You would love Dawkins because he's another like so
Yeah.
like there's like the like sort of the three horsemen atheists.
Yeah.
And like it's like Hitchinson,
Yeah.
Harris,
Yeah.
and Dawkins.
Yeah, and then Dennett, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah. They're,
Janet always bored me.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him, to be
All I
honest.
remember is reading that he said like he thought consciousness was an illusion. I'm like, what? Like, you know?
I
Yeah.
guess like you can kind of like
He's a
play into
compatibilist.
that a little bit, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, like you could sort of take from it the notion that like our perceptions aren't like, well, we already have a very like, I guess you could say frail grasp of what is actually in front of us,
Yeah.
because we can't see
That's
like,
fair.
specific like, we can't see like infrared and like, gamma rays and blah blah blah.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
but
for sure. For
but like,
sure, right? Like we're not seeing the full picture
yeah,
of what is possible to see. It is possible to experience, right?
but
We're limited by our sensory apparatus, right?
it could definitely be a very radical view. I think that is a radical viewpoint, though, that like our consciousness is purely like
Well, it
an
really
illusion.
depends on how you define a consciousness too, right? Because that's another thing that's tricky about consciousness, right? Is people use the same word to mean so many different things that it's like nobody knows what the hell anybody else is talking about, right?
Yeah, he would
Yeah.
definitely need to operationally define that,
Yeah.
like big time, like, or else like how do you even start that? I feel like it's already a non-starter. Like, how do you even?
I like Sam Harris's take on it because he kind of refers back to like what's his name, David. No, sorry, not David Chalmers. What's his name? Thomas Nagel wrote that essay. What like I think it's like what is it like to be a bat, right? Where you're just saying like consciousness is basically the quality. It's just subjectivity itself, right? So it's the quality of like you're having an experience right now, right?
Okay.
Like the difference between you and like a philosophical zombie, right? Or right? Something that's just like like a robot, right? It's like the lights are on. There's some kind of qualitative experience that's happening.
So would you
Right.
say that like reading into sort of the um, philosophical underpinnings of individuals, and then you like integrate that in your own experience, it like gives you a higher quality of consciousness or living? Would that be
Oh
somewhere?
no, I think that's more like the mind. I think consciousness is more of like a general thing. It's just the fact that there is experience. It's that we're aware that we exist. You know, like
Agency,
the
yeah.
lights are on. Or you know what I mean? Like just like right. There's subjectivity, right? Whereas like I feel like the nature of your thoughts and like your ideas, that's more like the quality of your mind, right? Which that's like a that's an element that appears in consciousness. I think,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So consciousness is just kind of subjectivity itself, right?
So would
Like
you say like
sight, sound, you know,
so would you say like
perception.
the
Sorry.
quality of your experience is more of like at the descriptive
Yeah.
level? Okay, not like the
Consciousness itself,
okay.
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was taking that in another direction where it's like, when people speak of like quality of like a fruit, whether if it's like,
Yeah.
in good, like good nutrient level, like it's like structurally stable, like a mold is a mold present, or
It's like consciousness is like the paper, and then its contents are like whatever like is drawn on that paper. Like it's like your thoughts,
Oh, yeah.
your feelings, your taste, touch, smell.
so that sounds very close to like the idea of like, what is it again? Tabula rosa, like the blank slate idea.
Well, I guess consciousness, yeah, but I don't think we're a blank slate. Like a
No.
yeah, right? Like, cause like I think the appearances in consciousness are like determined by our nervous system.
Yeah.
You know,
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
right?
because
And
definitely I do take issue with the whole notion of the blank slate idea.
well, it's stupid. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't it's not borne out by like our experience, right? We would all be like gods if that was the case. You know? Right?
Well, who likes to talk in terms of those? They're like, so like because like so the Marxist belief system, it actually does sort of predicate itself on a tabula rasa system,
Yeah.
thinking that like I think there isn't like there certainly needs to be weight drawn to socialization,
Yeah.
like considerable, but
Yeah, for sure.
they take it to excess where
Well, yeah,
it's like
your experience of socialization is going to be biased by your inherent like the way your nervous system is, right? Like like everybody's it's like we all have temperaments, right? And
Yeah.
that's undeniable, and that's apparent when you're like a baby, even, right? You know what I mean? It's
No, yeah.
like right, like just the idea of like the blank slate. I don't know. It's just we should be able to do whatever we want if we're a blank slate, shouldn't we? All right.
Yeah, which
There
is
shouldn't
yeah.
be any limitations. All
Yeah,
right?
that much is clear that there is limitations, very hard
Yeah,
limitations.
right. We would never experience a moment of frustration in our lives if there wasn't limitations.
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. We would just be able to just
Right?
do
This would be fucking
everything.
bliss, right? I
What
wish the blank slate was true, right? But it's obviously not, right? You know what I
I
mean?
I think it would also like have its own presentation of transgression if that was the case, because then it would be like, well, how would we draw satisfaction from anything? Because there's no adversity.
This ties into like why I hate Sartre. Like, you know, I mean, just that fucking line he has where it's like, you know, we are condemned to be free. It's
Yeah,
just like,
I.
shut the fuck up. Right? You know what I mean? Right? You know what I mean? Like, that is such a pose, man. That's such like a, just a, you know, like you can see him just like fucking gazing into his like navel as he said that, right?
Yeah,
Just like,
yeah.
I'm so fucking deep, right? It's like, how the fuck are we condemned to be free? You know?
Yeah, and yeah, it honestly sounds a little like faux armchair.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, oh, like yeah, it honestly sounds like sort of like a there's like a circle of like teenagers like smoking weed for the first time, and they're like, oh, like here's a deep thought, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. 100%, right? Like, I mean, for him to spend like that long thinking about things and like that's what he comes up with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like Jesus.
Well, it's funny too, because like with a line like that, it's actually really just a regurgitation of Rousseau.
Yeah, I don't know as much about Rousseau.
Well, he has that one line like, "Man is free, yet everywhere he's in chains."
Uh-huh.
Like that line, it's like if it's like a slight variation that like of Sartre too. Like they're sort of one and the same in a sense.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because you could definitely get like uh, at least like extract the same meaning from that.
Yeah, I mean, like taking responsibility is a good thing, for sure.
Yeah, we there's definitely a severe lack of that we're experiencing currently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, especially like I mean like so Josh and I are currently in post secondary. We're actually in the same institution.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm seeing it online. Unfortunately, it'd be fun to hang out at campus.
yeah, yeah. And like we've definitely been basically so the programs that we're going into are in the mental health field, and some of these classes that we're taking, they're so ideologically driven that, well, it's more like ideological drivel.
Yeah.
um,
Oh yeah.
and it's just so sad the
feel like
level of politicization.
I feel like I can. I'm very willing to just Robert Greene my way through it, though. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, man, right?
Oh my god, yeah, like
Just kidding. No, it's good to challenge things.
no, it is. And like honestly, like it's better to like have like at least like to slog through it, because like if we don't experience it here, we're gonna experience it elsewhere. So it's better to like almost have a voluntary like attitude about it, where it's like really just like lean into the tide that's happening, and just to go through it despite everything.
Yep.
And like I think that's where like just having a very firm moralization, like where you stand on things,
Yep.
that certainly helps, because like these sorts of notions that like especially these institutions, they've been so ideologically hijacked, and like they've substituted a theology that they never, I don't think they even intended for it to take hold necessarily. I think that they uh I mean like so I can't remember this man's name, but in the late 18th century, um, uh, I think his first name's Henry. But anyway, he put forth this notion that like so the universities were originally theologically like Christian based, like Judeo-Christian based. They, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have your theology that's backed by like axiomology, teleology. So like you have your value system, your end goal, like the purpose of like what the institution is for, and you have your epistemology, like the theory of knowledge, where these things come from. And so there's all these branches, and then it's no mistake that like universities are called a university is supposed to unify into a cohesive thought.
Yep.
So like the whole theology was substituted out, and he warned about this well over 100 years ago, that like, well, if you don't have a purposely implemented theology, you leave yourself susceptible to another form coming in.
That's something I'm skeptical of, but that's interesting.
But so like that theology,
Yeah.
I contend, is
Yeah.
actually Marxism. Neo-Marxism has
Yeah,
taken
the
that
new
place.
theology, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And and I totally agree. There's good things that have come from Christianity too, though. To be fair, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
Oh yeah,
against
there's always a very like how do you say shady underbelly to like any religion. Like I'm definitely not Christian myself. There's definitely a lot of sympathies I play to it. But
Yeah.
like at the same time, like I recognize the transgressions, and I think I think this is where we may differ a little bit. Like
Yeah.
where
Oh, yeah.
I put it on the placement of the actors rather than the religion itself. But I can certainly like also sympathize that there's a lot of underpinnings to something like the Judeo-Christian faith that are like ill-conceived, and
Yeah.
they should be seen as such. And
No, my view is more like that we should extract the good things from the religion and then throw away the dogma and the superstition.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? That's
Like-
that's more like my kind of take on it, right? Like, because I think there's definitely like gold to be mined there, right? It's more just like I think the text lends itself to like the interpretation of morons into something that is harmful, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where where I mentioned like that a lot of it is to put on the blame of the actors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they just
No,
don't actually have the intellect.
I think both are true because I think
Yeah.
the text can lend itself very easily to that too, though. You know what I mean? Because just not everybody is capable of like an intelligent reading of it, and it's not written in the most like it's written in like a kind of like a more like a literature kind of way.
Oh,
You know
very
what I mean?
much.
It's not
Yeah.
written in like I like the kind of simple, stupid English. This says exactly what it means.
Right.
I don't have to like because I think that is like the popular kind of way to read. You know what I mean? And I don't know. There's definitely a lot of good that's come from religion, but there's also a lot of bad.
Yeah.
And that's usually just comes from like these kind of like literalist takes
Yeah.
on it, right? That being said, I'm not saying that like you know it isn't you know I mean at least Christianity is not leading to any kind of like I don't know, Marxist revolution and whatnot, right? You know?
Yeah.
But I think they both have negative effects. Like for me, I think just getting out of the religion game altogether is ideal. You know what I mean? Because like, because I wouldn't say like, because I'd say the whole Marxism thing that's just another religion, right? That's just
It
a
totally
secular
is.
faith, right? You
Yeah,
know,
plays into Gnosticism on just a different level.
I really like Camus' idea of like you call it like philosophical suicide in like the myth of Sisyphus, right? Where he's talked all about just kind of like being living within the limits of like your reason and your skepticism, right? But like so often people would take a leap into like whether it's Christianity or whatever, right? To escape the absurd or whatever, right? I don't know.
Yeah, there definitely is a value to like how do you say like you like attach yourself to a grander like faith-based structure because like we can't make sense of everything.
Yeah,
And, like-
I'm advocating for staying in the uncertainty, right?
Yeah,
Right.
we definitely need that.
You know what I mean?
It's better to like at least like have a foot firmly set in the unknown where it's like there's things that we're willing to admit we don't know. Like
Yeah.
when we enter a conversation, it's like the person sitting across from you knows something you don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right, 100%. Right. Or it's like we don't even know how little we know. I mean, like yeah, like we're probably not even aware of like the limits of our own like knowledge, right? Like, or how like yeah, we're all just feeling around in the dark ultimately, right?
Yeah, really.
You know.
Yeah,
But,
and it's
but I think the best
dark.
tools we have is like our like capacity to like learn things empirically and through just skepticism and tight reasoning. And from the point of view of like everything's always like a tentative belief that's open to like updating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely should be approached from like a reform angle.
But that's probably hard to teach everybody too, though.
Oh yeah.
As much as like religion or anything like that, right? Like that's also a difficult view to teach people.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, I think that a lot of it would have, like, as we were mentioning temperament earlier, I think that would play a huge role that, like, people are willing to have their, like, belief structure challenged because, like, Definitely a sentiment that I very much appeal to with Jordan Peterson is like the level of sacrifice that's necessary for growth.
Yeah.
And like because I definitely
Yeah.
had to like have like a spiritual I'm not trying to attach too much faith-based language to it, but like
Ah,
almost like a faith-based suicide.
there's,
You
there's,
know,
there's, a, there's a place for that kind of language.
yeah, because it
Right?
was yeah. There's so many preconceived notions that I had to like let die in order to actually like sort of like come to these more informed positions, I suppose. Because like
Yep.
yeah, I think that there is like sort of a I can't really point out to it explicitly at this time, but like a lot of like leftism is definitely like rooted in absolutism, and
Yep.
like it's very unforgiving of like dissenting opinion,
Yeah.
and that's just not helpful in any capacity.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is just people are not consistent, like about. No, there's definitely that strain of leftism that is like kind of censorious, right? Definitely, it's definitely censorious. But yeah, it's hard to find consistency in like just adhering to like principle of like actually allowing free speech and because I can see that on the right as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? Like you hear about like Ron DeSantis punishing was it Disney for like basically like criticizing him, right? You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Indirectly, right? Like he did it in a way that was like deniable, but that's basically what he was doing,
Yeah.
right? And
I definitely low key found that funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But like, but you know, what I mean? But the problem though with it, I think, is that it's like it shows reaction winning out over principle. You know what I mean? Where he's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
It's like a tit for tat.
He's going,
yeah.
he's going from anger instead of like sticking to his guns, or sticking to like or sticking to the principle of like free speech, which is what people espouse. Right? A lot of people who go on the right talk a lot about free speech, right?
Yeah,
But
which
it's
is it's funny too, because like I think that he could have done, or he could have like acted out in the same manner, but like changed the structure behind it and like gotten a better result.
yeah,
Like he could have like had the same outcome, but like if he were to approach it from like sort of like elucidating the dangers behind what they're doing,
yeah.
like much more like rationally rather than like oh like
Speech to combat speech rather than just like because it's kind of like using force,
yeah,
right?
which I don't think is the answer.
Because criticism and dialogue and debate, right? I
Well,
think is the
yeah,
best.
and it's like I think he was trying to put out a gasoline fire with his foot, and he had just ended up fanning the flame a little bit for
Yeah.
like the radicals.
I don't know. I'm pretty cynical towards like everything, and for me, I almost thought it was just like kind of like a populist thing, like I'm gonna own this lib,
Yeah,
kind of, right?
which I don't think is the right way.
There's a
going
lot
about
of
it.
people like that though, right?
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? There's a lot of people like that, right? Where it
Yeah.
becomes so much of it's not about principle, it's about anger and like we're gonna fucking get these guys back, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Vengeance is an ugly thing.
Yeah, because you got that coming from both directions, left and right, right?
And unfortunately, that's when you have like centrists. They get in the middle of that sandwich, and then they end up like being like swallowed in the flame. Yeah, which is like such a terrible thing. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, like,
It's funny, yeah.
I think where like I kind of have a little bit of dissenting opinion with,
Yeah.
like I guess you could say like somebody who's like classically like libertarian standing is like.
Yep.
You could say like it could be sort of like the agnostic at the positions where it's like you're not really sure what to believe, but there's something that you recognize there's something there. But
The
then
enlightened centrist.
yeah, which like has its own value, but at the same time, like if you don't stand for something, then you can like start to be swallowed up in the
Fence
tide.
sitter.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you'll eventually get teetered to one side or another. So it's like I don't know.
Were you
It's
kind of
hard
just a
to.
passive observer?
Yeah, which like it's yeah, there eventually will come a time where it's like, well, you're not gonna be able to sit in the middle anymore. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna have to make a decision. And like I hate to say that too, because like I think that this whole prevalence of like I'd rather not have to have a political opinion.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
But like we don't live in that world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Social media, I think, has made people more political,
Oh, big time.
right?
So much. It's sad.
It's like I think too many people are finding personal meaning in kind of fucking standing on their little Instagram soapbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And it's like nobody. Ugh, it's just fucking annoying. It's just like be a good person, right? And, you know what I
It's
mean?
so annoying.
Right?
And like, yeah, when if you're to strip that all away, it's like I mean, like I guess I could say it for myself too, where it's like, we're sort of the cultivation of our experiences, but it seems like these people are on social media platforms touting these things and using these buzzwords. It's like less like thought out, it seems like. And if
Yeah.
you're to like really challenge their position, you'd pretty quickly, I think, like hit the wall with them, and they would just be like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it anymore."
Well, most people are only privy to like one side of the argument,
Yeah.
right? Most
Hmm.
people. That's what it seems like. Anyways, a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
Right?
like so much construction
And
of
part of that's
echo
like
chambers.
algorithms. Part of that's like social kind of affiliations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's hard work to challenge yourself. People don't like that because
Mm-hmm.
it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? And it can provoke anxiety,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
nice to have little. What is it? Louis C.K. calls it my little believies. Right? You know what I mean, right? It's like it's much easier just to like leave your beliefs alone, unmolested by outside opinion, right? And it's like I can feel much more secure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it can be painful to challenge your beliefs.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Because uncertainty is like not always emotionally a very comfortable place to be.
Oh yeah, and
Right?
like we live in such a like a bubble wrap world at the same time. Like I remember reading into Jonathan Haidt's book, "The Coddling of the American Mind,"
Yeah, I love that book.
and like he has so many useful metaphors too for like I mean like there definitely is a medical basis for like the development of things like peanut allergies, where like
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
very strong correlation between like trying to like reduce exposure to a radical amount, and then there's like the relationship between like yeah like taking peanuts like out as much as they did, and then like soon after the huge increase in like peanut allergies, and like he draws like a metaphor between that and like the integration of like safe spaces like
yeah, yeah,
in post-secondary institutions, and it's definitely really sad how like I know that like a lot of these professors are trying to come from like a very accepting place where they're putting
compassionate and
yeah
right. They're
compassionate
aiming for compassion.
yeah, and they're putting up like trigger warnings for things like this and whatever, but like some of them are like so mundane. Like I remember even the other day like i I mean like I have so much respect for this prof, but I take him for my personality course, and
Yep.
like again I actually like really like his teachings, but like I think he said something like a minor comment towards like breast size or something, and it was like such a light joke, and then he apologized like 3 times, and I'm just like, man, like
Professor
this.
Weinstein.
Yeah, and
So,
it's just
I'm just
it's
kidding.
not helping. It's not helping. Like people have breasts. It's not like it was like an overtly offensive joke. It was very surface level. He wasn't like pointing out to anybody or anything. It was kind of like a joke into the void kind of thing, and yeah, it's just the level of apology. I couldn't help but feel a little bit of pity. I was just like,
Well, you did,
man.
I'm sure you didn't say this with harmful intent, right?
No, he's
He was
far
joking,
from.
right? And
He's
like,
so far from being a harmful. Like he's a clinical
and people make
psychologist for
awkward
Christ's
jokes
sake.
all the time, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
like like if you're gonna crucify somebody for not being funny, it's like good luck making friends,
well,
right?
yeah, and
What kind
like,
of stilted conversations are you gonna have,
and there's so
right?
much weight too to like that's put on like just chastising of mistakes. It's sad.
Yeah, yeah. You must be perfect at all
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
and if you're not, we're gonna nail you to a cross.
Yeah, and you have to do the work. You have to correct yourself. Oh, time and time again. You have to be more aware of like
You
your
gotta say,
position.
yeah, you gotta apologize so many times, right? It's like you're going to confession at church, right?
And that's a
Say
part of the faith.
5 Hail
Yeah,
Marys, right? And
that's a part of the
10 Our
faith of
Fathers, you
yeah
know?
of neo-Marxism. Like it's like if there's one thing I've learned from like witnessing social media and like these people that try to apologize to the mob is it's a grave mistake to do so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
is such a mistake because you already admit that like you were in the wrong, and then as soon as like you give them that centimeter, they take a mile.
Yeah, let's say it's kind of like a learned behavior, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, right, this is like an acquired kind of mindset. This is not the way things always were, right?
It totally is. Yeah, it's
You know, because that's interesting thing with, you know, fucking, my view is that at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own, like, emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, it's like, the difference is if you're, like, actually attacking somebody, like, on purpose, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, like, you know, if you say something to me right now that I find upsetting, that's my fucking problem, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you
I'm an adult, you know, right?
and you can control.
Yeah,
like,
if
how
you have an
react.
opinion that is different from mine, you're not like attacking me, right?
Yeah.
That's not your problem. You shouldn't you know, bat an eyelash over that, right? Like I need to manage my own shit because you know I'm a fucking adult, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
It's like you know,
It's like your frontal lobes developed, and like you can like.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's where the boundary should be with people, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like you know, the prof is not responsible for every single last student's emotional, like idiosyncratic emotional sensitivities, right? Because you can be offended by a fucking compliment, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. On that note, like when like we just had the holidays, and people actually taking offense to like Merry Christmas.
No, but people take offense to Happy Holidays too, though.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Right?
It's like saying like on like even a more neutral ground. It's like, oh, you have nice hair. You said what to me?
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah. No. 100%. 100%. Yeah. No, you know, okay. I have a little bit more of that kind of anti like religious sentiment to me, where I like to kind of say Happy Holidays because I know some people don't like it. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that to you though, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's
But-
like at the end of the day, you're
No,
like
but yeah,
wishing them well.
you're right though too. Like I would like who the fuck is offended by Merry Christmas, right?
Yeah,
You know?
even if like you don't like ascribe to that faith structure, it's like you're wishing someone like well.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like
Yeah.
you know, a guy I used to work with named Jess in a warehouse. Like you know, he used to try and get me to go to his church. He's trying to save my soul. He's telling me about how I needed Jesus Christ in my life to have meaning.
Oh,
And like,
baby Jesus.
I'm good, Jess. Thanks, though, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate the concern. And it's like you know, I appreciate the concern.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like it's not like he's wishing me ill. He wants me to not burn in hell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you know, it's nice. It's nice that he doesn't want me to you know, suffer in damnation for eternity, right?
Yeah, it's
You
the
know?
general concern. The fact that he took a moment to think about like your well being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And like it's better just to honestly just like
I didn't get
leave
mad
it
at him
that.
for it though. I'm not
Yeah.
like, right? Like I don't even know what I'd say to him. Like, the fuck, Jess? Alright? You know? What the hell, man? I don't believe in that shit. Leave me alone. And I'll start
Yeah.
crying and run away.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, like, especially if, like, you're in a crowd of people and they tell you that, like, they'll leave you alone and you'll eat your words.
But you know, like thin-skinnedness is not like an admirable trait. It's actually a very immature,
Oh, yeah.
childish kind of trait that people need to like outgrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, could you speak more to that, like the level of, like,
I
what
mean,
you've
just
been
people
part
having different opinions from you should not be something that like makes you want to go cry in your room, right? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to agree completely with anybody that you meet ever, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? And like, you know.
And that's, like, the true beauty of diversity right there.
Yeah, exactly, right? And like, you know, it's like you're not really going to grow in life either unless you're able to like learn the truth about yourself and actually receive feedback on what you do. And those things can be uncomfortable to hear, but you can build up a tolerance to hearing it. It does depend in part on the delivery and on the individual, but like I think challenge that is like contextually appropriate for like the individual is like what's going to cause them to develop strength and be able to handle kind of life. You know?
Oh yeah, and
Right?
we're so inherently resilient, like as a species.
'Cause, right, there's like a sweet spot, like, you know, for like, that's next thing in that book, like of like, you know, challenge that's appropriate for each person, right? Because too much like stress, like too much of a challenge where it's like stressful and it's overwhelming, that's not going to help.
Yeah,
Too little is not going to help either.
and I haven't read this book yet, but a good plug-in, you know, sponsor me, Rick Hansen. But you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw that on your shelf. Actually, I haven't read it either.
yeah, but yeah, he has that book titled Resilient, and I'm sure it's nothing short of spectacular, but definitely.
Well, yeah, people who go through too little adversity earlier in life, like, are more prone to like anxiety disorders and depressive disorders later in life. And the same is true of people who go through too much adversity early in life, right? So there's like a certain level of like discomfort and like challenge and difficulty that is like going to be necessary for becoming like a well-rounded human being, right? So like protecting everybody from like everything. I don't know, man. Protecting people from uncomfortable differences of opinion is like just, it's not doing them any favors in the long run. You're just strengthening that kind of flight instinct in them, right?
Yeah, and I think that there is something to that too, like in terms of like it, like turning to like just like a faith-based system with like if you're to look at it through archetypes, like with Carl Jung and like the hero archetype, you know, you voluntarily like go forward like on a path that's like, you know, that like at the end of that you're gonna have to face the dragon.
Yeah.
You know? And but like on the way there you face smaller labors, or like Hercules, you know, like you go through these things, and
I don't know
but
much
you,
about Hercules.
well, like what was it
Didn't he like
again?
murder his family at some point?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know.
I swear there's one myth where he just like murders his family. Don't do that one.
Holy shit,
Right?
no,
That one's
definitely
less of a
not.
lesson.
Yeah, keep it to like you go through the labyrinth, conquer the Minotaur, and like, you know, like that.
I swear he does that.
Yeah, that would definitely have had to be something that we look up here.
Should I Google that?
We definitely don't advocate for the
The
murder.
no,
Please
100%.
don't.
Yeah, it's not gonna make you a better person.
Yeah.
Right?
That's like a weird, like, you know, you consume and it makes you stronger.
For growth. Did Hercules murder?
But that would be interesting to know.
Oh, it's one of the top Googled things.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Later in Thetis, Heracles married King Creon's daughter Megara. In a fit of madness induced by Hera,
Oh, shit.
Heracles killed his children and Megara. After his madness had been cured with hellebore by Anticyreus, the founder of Anticyre, he realized what he had done and fled to the Oracle of Delphi.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, somebody spiked his drink, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah, basically.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it wasn't a voluntary action on Hercules' part.
The original Kool-Aid story.
Yeah.
Not quite, but.
Yeah, remember those unlucky of Hercules. You know.
Oh, man.
Right?
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, no, I got a little sidetracked there.
No, I did want to know about that, because honestly, my knowledge of that.
I used to love mythology when I was younger, and I used to have like those like encyclopedia books of mythology. And I used to like reading all about them. I love the fucking Norwegian ones the best.
Oh yeah,
they're so fucking heavy metal, right? You know, like Loki, man.
Yeah.
Right, Fenrir, the World Eater.
Oh
Big
my
wolf and
God.
shit.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
I can't say I've learned any lessons from any of that shit though. Like, I mean, I haven't reflected on it enough too.
Well, and like reading that as a child, like how the hell do you even pick up on these themes unless like you actually have somebody walking through it with you that's like a scholar of it, you know?
But the whole be the hero of your own story thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Right? Like that is a good framing in general.
Yeah, like because
framing.
I think there is like something analogous to that, to like I definitely don't take on like the whole theme of stoicism, but like there definitely is some very admirable things about
I love
like
stoicism. Yeah.
Yeah, and like being able to actually like I would say it's almost like swallowing some of your pride and some of like the emotions that you integrate from your experiences, but then you kind of like digest them down and you break them down and not let them like allow yourself to be governed by them. because like
Yep.
we're still gonna have these reactions and everything, but it doesn't have to be like taking control of you.
I think Stoicism has influenced like modern like cognitive behavioral therapy too, right?
Yeah,
I believe.
I
But like,
could definitely see the.
or it's just it's just healthy. Well, I mean, think about it, right? Like CBT is all about reframing unhelpful cognitions and changing your behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what does Stoicism provide? But like a fucking plethora of useful cognitions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like 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 focus on what's in your control, right?
Yep.
And kind of use what isn't to your advantage if you can.
Yep.
But mostly focus on what's in your control, right?
Yeah, and there's definitely something very healthy to that too,
Yeah,
because
learning to love your fate, right?
mm-hmm.
And view things as opportunities for growth. There's all kinds of useful mental habits that you can pick up there.
Yeah, and there's
That's how
definitely something to that too, like the whole basis of like working with what you have rather than like trying to totally restructure your environment.
Yeah.
Like, like because there is something very dangerous about that idea, like because it's assuming that we have the right idea of how we can restructure it
It comes back to the whole responsibility discussion, I guess, right?
yeah, I mean, like to an extent, like we do have to like make some adjustments of how we like conduct like energy production, things like that, but like it's definitely like it's being taken like, oh, let's go like 40 steps ahead, and it's like not even actually like drawing concern to like the fact that like things with like electrical vehicles, like on the surface it sounds great, but then you have like
Yeah.
these nauseum of like fucking oils that need to be like produced and everything in order to make them happen, and then it also abuses like other countries like resources, like to the point where like they're actually far worse off, and like it's
It's not a simple fix. We don't just snap our fingers and we're in Candyland, right?
yeah.
Basically, right? Like like the technology. I mean, yeah. Just think about like poorer countries, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a lot harder for them to implement green tech, right? I mean, I don't know much about this subject, honestly. I'm not very schooled in it.
Yeah, and I know like a thing or two here and there. Like I think I know a bit more about the whole like that basically sustainability has turned itself into like a religious tenet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually like, and I think that's actually how a lot of people have been so swept up in it and like less concerned with like what's actually like being implemented. And I think that's like it. I think that's where the danger comes in, because like people just assume that if people operate under the banner of sustainability, that's automatically good.
Yeah. Or just
And
buzzwords.
yeah, it's a total buzzword. And I just had to take a second to like just remark on how interesting it is. We went from we're talking about a terrible story of acid like acid
Fucking
instance,
Hercules
and
murdering his family.
yeah, to that like
To
the jump
sustainability.
is it's very interesting how like we can make these logical jumps or like topics of discussion, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah. I'm trying to think of what the word is for that. Yeah, I don't think my brain works in a very like linear fashion, honestly.
yeah, I think it's best done that way too, because that's where the creative drive comes in.
Yeah, right. Like I'm shifting my seat this whole time too, right?
Oh yeah, I mean like
ADHD case, you know.
no, like I'm kind of the same.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the whole the whole responsibility thing, right? Like everything is everybody else's responsibility, right?
Yeah,
Basically, right?
which is very socialist oriented, you know.
And it's like the same thing I was talking about earlier about people were taking responsibility for their own emotions, their own emotional responses, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like sure, maybe those emotions, maybe you've been conditioned by your life, maybe there's trauma in the past. Maybe it's not your. It doesn't. I'm not saying it's your fault. It's not somebody's fault. I think fault and responsibility are like actually independent concepts.
Oh, totally.
Right. You know, taking responsibility is like a positive act, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like it's probably not your fault, but you still got to take responsibility for it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, you do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because otherwise you're gonna go nowhere.
yeah,
Right?
and it's definitely not like either
know?
saying that like that this is like victim blaming or anything either. It's
Yeah.
like
No, because I can look at things through the compassionate lens, right? As well. You know.
Yeah, you definitely have to like filtrate it too in a healthy way, like what Paul Bloom points to, that you
Yep.
aren't just like taking full head on into what. So like for context, we're talking about the book Against Empathy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how
I
like
like Paul
he,
Bloom a lot.
yeah, and he definitely very much speaks against emotional empathy, but he
Yep.
definitely champions concepts like kindness, compassion, cognitive empathy, which is being able to think of somebody else's like circumstance,
Yep.
but it's not shouldering the emotional burden and having like you taken on.
Like borrowing suffering, right?
Well, I think it's like it's even more than that. Like you turn it into like their suffering into like yours. Like it's not even borrowing. It's actually like you actually integrate it into yourself. And like I think under a long enough timeline, because I know that I've experienced this myself, where like
Yep.
I can distinct like their like issues like with my own. Like it actually felt like it was fusing.
Yeah, you need like the appropriate degree of emotional independence to like think clearly about things and like have it's like a healthy boundary kind of, right?
Oh yeah.
I think, right? Because yeah, no, I've had those kind of experiences too, right? People
And
care too much and then they fucking hurt themselves, right?
yeah, and like there comes a point where it's like you can sit in like the proverbial underworld with them and like be there with like someone who's suffering, but like you're not also not doing them a favor if like you shovel some of their like self into you.
Yeah, well, just think about it, right? Like emotional contagion for people with depression,
Yeah.
right? The better thing is to be able to be like emotionally independent. Then you can actually function as somebody who lifts this person up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're not gonna catch it, right? Right? You can be if you're more independent in that way, then you can actually be a source of positivity to people who are struggling, right?
Yeah, and
You
like
know?
I think this goes to a sentiment that I think is also like I keep bringing up Jordan Peterson, and just so
Yeah.
everybody knows, I definitely do like Jordan Peterson.
Well,
So
he's intelligent.
yeah, and he references a line where he's like, "Be the person that can be relied upon at like your father's funeral or like
Well, yeah.
whoever's funeral."
I like the example Paul Bloom gives in two of his book of like you don't want like to go to like a psychologist for your anxiety and they're anxious with you about it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You can't be that. You can't be that person if you're overly like engaging in the emotional side of empathy.
yeah,
Right? You can't be that person if you do that.
yeah.
Right?
You really do have to be like
As far
from
as
a healthy standpoint.
as far as
yeah.
being that person that can be relied on, right? Like kind of rock in the storm, right? You know, you can't. You gotta have those boundaries.
And it's interesting too, because like I know that when I was listening to my prof the other day, like something that they'll do with therapy sessions, they'll position themselves in a way where like they will be not directly facing their client because they can sometimes like have like a mirroring effect going on where like they may not actually like see their present or like the anxiety and the therapist across from them, but like they feel self-conscious about it, so then you
Yeah.
actually angle like your chair sort of like beside, but like it's like slightly angled towards them, but not so you're like
Makes
sharing
sense.
eye contact.
I feel like I can overwhelm people with my energy.
Oh yeah,
You know?
I know the feeling.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I'm kind of a hyper person, and sometimes I can see like the effect I'm having on people sometimes.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Where I'm like, they're like, whoa, this guy's like fucking too much. You know? Right? So somebody said about controlling for factors like that, right? So you can have like the proper therapeutic relationship, right? And, yeah.
But now that we're hitting around an hour and 18 minutes here, and since this is still a test run, and I'm gonna have to have some growing pains with looking at the material, and
I feel like
hopefully it came through.
I feel like the empathy thing that we should clarify like a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, yeah.
Just because like it's kind of like when we're talking about consciousness. The problem with the word empathy is people mean so many different things by it,
Yeah.
right? And like you were kind of speaking to that already though, but
Yeah.
specifically you mean like the sort of empathy where you're feeling what somebody else feels. You're not talking about kindness. You're not talking about helping people and caring about them, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about specifically like that kind of like emotional contagion. right?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like the scientific literature, the way that it talks about empathy is like I know that so there's this one researcher. He's very preeminent in the developmental field. I believe his name is Simon Baron Cohen. He
Oh
is
yeah, 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 yeah.
and
This guy.
he actually has a lot of very useful work, and Paul Bloom talks about him too, where like he sort of comes at it from an angle where like if we were to have like more empathy in the world, then it would solve a lot of the problems. That's definitely like it may be seen as a mischaracterization because I'm summarizing and there's a lot of detail to it, but like in a very loose like speaking manner, that's kind of like what he points to, and like a lot of other researchers like point out to as well. And like I think that's a very like rose-colored glasses way of looking at
Oh yeah,
it.
there's dark forms of empathy too, right? Where somebody's
Oh
getting
yeah.
pleasure out of like the empathic, experience of inflicting suffering on somebody, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, dark empaths are very real, and I've encountered a couple of them in my
Right. So it's
life.
not like it's a black and white. Like this is just purely a positive thing, right? It can increase like tribal kind of tendencies in people.
Oh yeah, and I
It's
think we see a lot of that
empathy is the
today.
reason, like when one person dies, it's a tragedy, and a million is a statistics, right?
Mm,
It's because
mm-hmm.
we're wired in this like kind of primitive way,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. And that was a good thing to point out too.
It's like
Like
reason, man. People need reason,
we really do. Like
evidence.
it's
Right?
because yeah, like when we enter a scenario and we like first take in something, we may have an emotional response and not trying to strip away the potential value behind that, but like
No, for sure.
we definitely like I don't think we can rely on that
The emotions need
either.
to be domesticated.
Yeah,
You know.
in a matter of speak, yeah, we do need to tame them
Yeah,
for
right.
sure.
Like they're not. I don't think they're the most reliable guide. Like
Definitely not to the extent that Rousseau like etches it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The whole notion of him like, what was it? The like the whole like savages like living in cities, like that's like sort of the ideal conditions like for living. And I was just like reading into it deeper. It's like so you want like a very animalistic like instinct, but like you want that somehow to like thrive in a communal sense, which like I just don't see that ever
Yeah, it'd be nothing
working.
but petty conflict at all times.
It'd be petty conflict. It would be like the I guess you could say like the Freudian like libido like playing out
Yeah.
in the worst possible way, like people basically just like acting on their like emotional whims all the time, like with their
It's like a dog
aggression, their
park. You know.
sexual. It would be a dog park. It would be a fucking dog
Yeah,
park.
right. I mean, so I do think like I'm not like anti-emotion either. Like I think like obviously emotions can provide they provide a form of information, and they can be useful,
For
right?
motivation too.
You
Yeah.
want, but I think you want to
Yeah.
you want to be able to use your emotions and not be used by your emotions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's more the kind of flipped, right? So it's like it's a emotional regulate. You want to regulate it, right?
Yeah.
So you're using it, and you're not getting used by
Mm-hmm.
your emotions, right? Because I think one of the biggest impediments to like clear thought is like this kind of like intense like emotion, right?
No, for sure.
Sometimes, a lot of time. Right? It's not all the time, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's still place for it.
No, for sure. Yeah, definitely. That is completely necessary. Like, I know that like I've had like issues in the past with like keeping my anger in check. You know,
No, I
like
can. I can be pretty cranky.
so
Yeah.
we are human after all.
Yeah. Right. Right. No, 100%. 100%. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many times where I've wanted to do something out of anger, and I've just held back in time, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, that's usually how it goes for me. I feel like when I do get really angry.
And especially with like parental conflict. I mean, like I think that was like a kernel of truth to something like Freud's theory. I mean, like I definitely don't ascribe to the whole incestual factor.
Freud's fucking fucked out on coke, right?
Yeah, he just like had like a thought, and then it just went on steroids, where it's like, oh, I have to keep writing. I have so much energy. I need to like jot this down right now.
That guy's just like, man, he's like the sickest man in psychology, pretty much, right? You know, like truly, right?
Yeah, like actually, but like when you actually take like that kernel truth that there is like like same sex like parental conflict that like and that's like nested in like trying to like find your like sense of identity and how like I know that like with like my dad in particular, we definitely don't see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean I still don't love him to death.
Oh no, yeah. You guys are some great. I've seen you guys each other. You know, like me and my dad used to butt heads all the time too. Right?
And I think that's a necessary part of growing up too. I'm not like also like calling for like you have to like have these like conflicts with your family and whatnot, but I think it's definitely a common dynamic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
Calling
booted
that.
me out, right? On one point, he's like just being such a dick. Right? I mean, that was actually more on me though. But yeah, Freud is interesting. I think he's more of a mythologist than a real scientist, honestly.
Yeah, he definitely a lot of like pseudoscience too. Like he would like you wouldn't be able to falsify anything of his. He would be actually he would oust people for speaking against his theories like just immediately too. They'd be like, oh, I don't know about that, and he'd be like, get out.
So it's unbelievable that people still engage in like Freudian like psychoanalysis, right?
Yeah, like I think that he did call like a very important like message to like in the therapeutic relationship with defense mechanisms and things like that.
Yeah,
like a ridiculous amount of value to that, but like definitely more the theoretical implications of like or the reasoning behind some of the things. It's like okay, that's where you start to lose me.
No, he had like interesting ideas, right? It's just not empirical.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You're not empirically driven.
But like at the same time, like I mean, like definitely my favorite psychologist in particular is Carl Jung. I fucking love him so much.
I don't know who mine is.
But he's definitely very theoretical, and a lot of it isn't able to be empirical because he is like almost like a theologian too.
Actually, I really do like Paul Bloom. He might be one of my favorites.
Yeah, Paul Bloom is definitely good.
He's pretty modern, but like Canadian too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, isn't he from like Toronto or something?
He's just such a good writer too.
You know? Oh yeah, definitely.
Right? He's great.
It's kind of funny too, but I guess like a knack that I have because like I know it when I see it in my own work. Like if I see a typo later, like I want to hit my head against the desk. And when I was reading his book, I think I like found like 12 different typos through the whole book.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I was just like, this isn't even Paul's fault.
The flow is good though. You know?
Oh, it's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's very crisp.
It definitely is crisp. Yeah. From topic to topic.
Are we going too long?
Let's tie it up here. Because also the coffee's catching up with me, and the bladder's full. So
100%. Yeah, mine's cold now. I'm glad I didn't drink more because I had enough.
Oh, there you go. But anyway, thanks for joining us. This is the test episode, so hopefully we'll have a good format going forward. And
I really want to self-consciously listen to myself now.
Well, you'll get
the
that
pit
chance.
of self, and, be swallowed by my own narcissism.
Well, you'll have that chance.
Drown in the mirrored pool when this is done.
Narcissus. Yes.
Right? Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for tuning in. This is Michael and Josh on Join the Light Side TV.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to say, Josh?
No, that was fun. That was good. This is what we kind of just do, right? Like we just is like a normal conversation for us.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna look to have more uploads in the future. So if you'd like to tune in, please do. And if you would like to have any thoughts, comments, what we said, or if you have any dissenting opinion of what we've said, definitely welcome open discourse. We're likely to be wrong about a few things,
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Anyway, please tune in next time, and hope to see you there.
You let mean comments
All right. Everyone have a good day.